Pedro from A&P-REACTS. I'm here today with Daniel from Ages. They have a new album coming out, Uncrown, on August 21st on Black Lodge Records. How's it going?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Was that a good introduction? Did I hit all the right spots?
I guess, yeah. New album on August 21st. Yeah, that's
You don't
well,
seem very sure.
yeah, that's everything that anyone needs to know.
What experiences did you guys take as a band from the debut record into this second record?
I think we evolved quite a bit because the first album that we did was 5 years ago. So we've been working quite a lot and quite in not intensely. It's been on and off for 5 years because there's been so many other things going on. And also me and Andreas, who writes everything, we're super nitpicky and very detail oriented. So everything takes a long time. Writing a song, it goes pretty fast, but then going into the details and getting everything perfect just the way we want it takes a very long time. So that's why it's been taking so long. But I think from the first album we were kind of exploring what kind of sound we wanted to create. And the first album we're super happy with how it turned out. And we spent all the time that we needed to get it the way we wanted. But it was all a little bit of reinventing the wheel every time to which direction are we going to take this song and what kind of niche riffs and sounds will work with our vision, right?
Hmm.
So this time around, I think with Uncrown, I think we were more settled and more sure of what it is that we wanted to create, and we had a clear vision and a more, from a technical aspect, a more streamlined process. I think it was easier, and it felt more. We felt more comfortable with ourselves and with the whole process. So it was super rewarding to work like that. And I feel now going forward, we have a fairly good idea. We can basically just turn the page and continue from where we are, and we feel comfortable doing that. So
The first record was a self-release, if I'm not mistaken, and this one you guys are releasing with Black Lodge Records, which, by the way, I have to tell you, this is the reason why I listened to this album, because I hadn't heard of Ages before. I didn't listen to the previous record, but maybe not last year, but either last year or 2 years ago, Wormwood released an album with Black Lodge Records, and I absolutely love that album. So I was like, these guys at this label, I think they have a good ear for music. So let me check Ages and Uncrowned. And I was like, wow, yes, they do have a good ear for music.
cool.
Because this album is really good.
I appreciate that. It makes me happy to hear. Black Lodge is a fairly, I think, small label, but they have been around for so long, and Sound Pollution Distribution, who is their same people running the same show. They've been around for, I don't know how, decades, and releasing metal for so many years. So yes, they're very well versed in the genre and know what goes well and so on. And yeah, Wormwood is also there. I've listened to this. It's a really good album, and they've talked about it also. So yeah. But no, the first album that we did was also on Black Lodge. So
Oh, was it? I thought it was a self-release.
no, we did 3 singles self-released, and
Okay.
then we signed on to Black Lodge. So both this is a second album on Black Lodge. And yeah, I mean, they've been great with that. I feel like specifically here in Europe, they have pretty good distribution and good connections, and they're getting it out there, and have a good they're very focused also on physical releases. So there's a lot of vinyl and CDs still being sold. So that's a lot of fun.
Well, right now for me, they're batting 1,000. I mean, the 2 albums that I listened from them, the 2 albums are magnificent. So they can do no wrong in my eyes. They can keep sending me albums for review. I wouldn't mind. Do
That's cool.
you feel like there's a little bit of extra pressure for you guys going into the second album? I mean, the first album is always the first album. There's always going to be rookie mistakes, if you will. But then when you go into the second album, the expectations from the fans obviously increase, and I'm sure your own expectations increase. So do you feel like there's extra pressure coming into this record?
Not really. I think we were more, as I said, more comfortable. Even so, I think we were more confident that we were doing the right thing because we knew what we wanted to do, and it was really appreciated by the label also. And they really put all their confidence in us, that they just gave us the freedom. We got like a reminder email once in a while saying, "Hey, how's the new album coming along?" That's basically it. Well, like no pressure, no time frame, and deadlines that they put on us. So we basically did what we wanted, and they trusted us in, and we felt, I didn't feel any, I wasn't unsure that ever doubted that what we were doing would be okay with the label. As long as we ourselves were happy with the result, which we definitely are, then it would fall, I think, on good eyes and with a label. So
I felt the record had a very interesting synergy. So the songs themselves, from a structural perspective, they felt very disconnected. Like there was no two song alike, right? So you have all these tracks on the record. I didn't feel like there was almost, from a structural perspective, there was almost no fluidity from track to track. Having said that, every single song has this incredible atmosphere that really binds them all together, almost like five fingers in a hand, right? Each one of them has a fingerprint, but they're all still part of one larger body. So the album felt to me that way. Do you agree with that perspective?
that's an interesting perspective. Now that you mention it, I can agree with that. I think it makes sense. It's not something that we consciously had in mind, but when you put it that way, I certainly understand what you mean. It's all. I was created, first of all, after during such a long period of time. Like basically right after the release of the Malefic Miasma first album, we started writing these songs. So it's been an on and off process over 5 years, and even maybe up until 6 months before we delivered the completed album, we probably wrote something to add. So it's like up until basically the D-Day, we we added stuff. So it's been a long process. So I'm sure that the songs you find different influences from different things, from
Yeah.
different music experiences, stuff like that. So that, of course, has some sort of impact on what kind of music you also write over the course of 5 years.
Mhm.
So I'm sure that had an impact. But at the same time, we wrote everything in the same setting, the same, um, you know, um, we have the same type of dynamics. Me and Andreas, we're super in agreement all the time of what is the Aegis sound, what constitutes the Aegis sound, and there is never any debate about what fits and not. We write some stuff that we obviously throw away. That's just not. This is way too much something else, and we have a very, I think, niche sound that are accepted within our little echo chamber of Aegisness. So, but the songs, I'm glad that you feel that the songs are not the same, very samey, because that's as long as you sense a common thread, then that's fine. But that's good. But I'm also glad that there is a little bit of variety, and you find that, yeah, as you said, the glove
And
thing.
considering the uniqueness of the tracks, was it hard for you, and the duration of the time that it took you guys to finish the record? Like you said, overall, that huge span of time, was it difficult for you guys to finalize the track listing? I'm a big fan of track listing and the order of the tracks on the record. I'm still old school. I like to listen to the album from beginning all the way to the end, and then evaluate the record like that, not just on individual songs. So was it hard for you guys to put the track listing together?
I specifically remember us going back and forth. I was going to say arguing. We didn't argue, but we went back and forth.
Heated discussion.
Yes. Well, not even heated. It was a
Just a
lukewarm
discussion.
discussion. Yeah. About the track. I'm also, for some reason, very picky about the track listing. I think it's important. I mean, people do listen to songs taken out of context a lot of the times. They make playlists with different bands, and you stumble upon playlists on Spotify or whatever you're that might be it. But as I'm still in that mindset of an album as a whole entity, and the order is very important to gain a context, overall context. So that to me is very important. And I know I remember us going a little bit back and forth about how to put the songs in which order, and I feel that but it's more, I think, so of trying to get a little bit of variety, and not, you can't, if you have 3 songs with acoustic intros, for example, then you don't want to put those 3 songs in like consecutively.
In a row, yeah.
In a row, yeah. So you want to spread it out a little bit. So and things like that, and you have fade outs, and it has to feel like a seamless transitions. So it's kind of tricky. Now, going back listening to the album, I feel like I'm happy with the order. I don't know what your input is, but I could have maybe switched out the last 2 songs, flipped them around, because the Death of Kings of Old has such an epic, which is the second to last song on the album, has such an epic.
One of my favorites, by the way.
Oh, great! Yeah, yeah, mine too. Actually, I think it's my favorite song. So that has such a grandiose ending. So you could have argued that would be the ending, but then we just felt that, let's keep it let's just end on a surprising note instead, with like a solemn, just a acoustic guitar, which is also, I guess, cool. Depends on what you're looking for. Yeah, it's for me it's important. I don't know what you think about the track order, but I'm happy.
No, for me, the track order is very important on the record. Like I said, I listen to the album as a whole, so I need the record to have that sense of fluidity. I don't mind after the first time or second time going through the album to go back and listen to songs on a separate basis. But I feel for you to really evaluate the quality of a record, you have to listen to it in order. So that's why I wanted to ask you about the track listing, because I felt that this record, the track listing to me was a little bit interesting. Like I said before, I felt like the songs were so unique within themselves that it was really hard to follow that path. What kept me in that path was the overall atmosphere that you guys created, which is pretty much similar. I wouldn't say the same, because there's no 2 songs alike on this record, but it's similar across all the tracks. So it's like the common denominator, if you will, across all tracks. That melodic atmosphere that you guys created, which takes me to the next point. How was it creating that melody using the keyboards and everything that goes into it, the orchestration? Because I felt like you guys created a very cinematic, melodic atmosphere for the record.
Thanks. I think so too. We've always been super melodic. I mean, we take into account the type of melodic black metal from the mid 90s, like especially Swedish melodic black metal, like Dissection, Dawn, bands like that. And there weren't that many around. There were a bunch, and we listened to them all and loved what they were doing back then. But there aren't that many bands doing this type of melodic black metal. Now, black metal as a whole, I feel like, is super prosperous, and there are so many bands now releasing stuff all the time. I mean, not maybe financially prosperous, but
musically prosperous.
Musically prosperous. So that's good. But this specific type of melodic black metal, I feel, is pretty scarce and today. So I'm happy for our own sake that this is the type of music that I want to listen to. So that's what we're writing, and hopefully we bring something new to the table, or revive at least something. And it was for the first time, I feel like we incorporate a little bit more orchestral. There's a little more orchestral elements on this album than the previous one. And for the first time, we experimented with actually putting down an orchestral layer first, and then writing the guitar riffs on top of that. The majority of the music is still written based off of guitars, but we tried it in a different order, and you can pretty easily tell, I feel like, which riffs are made. Like, for example, the outro on the Death of Kings of Old were composed with a keyboard foundation. So that gives it a little bit of a different touch, and it gives a little bit more variety, I think, for types of throughout the songs, I feel like. So that was a different.
I'm a big fan of melodic black metal as well, and I felt that you guys with this record found that perfect balance between darkness, because let me rephrase this. The melody that you guys created on this album found that perfect balance between being melodic in terms of the light that comes in into the morning into a dark room, and the darkness that was in that room before that light came in. It's really hard to walk that fine line with melodic black metal, but I felt that with this album, you guys were just right on that line. It didn't tip towards one, it didn't tip towards the other. You guys were just like balancing the merger of that melody and still keep the songs so dark. And a lot of the darkness came from the melody itself. Do you know what I mean? Like the feeling, the atmosphere that the melody created.
Very poetically put. I yeah. I know exactly. I understand what you mean. I agree. It's a somberness and a gloominess, but there is still it's a melancholy infused hope in a sense. It's not complete hopelessness and ruin, but it's there is a glimmer of hope in there, while still being we have try to make it atmospheric and still keep that darkness, so to speak. So it's I think we have. It's kind of hard because, as you say, it's a very fine line. It's hard to hold that thought and just write stuff in that very specific type of sound. And it's kind of a challenge for us also because we have put up these pretty conscious boundaries for ourselves, and that makes it kind of, there's a lot of ideas that we just have to scrap because they don't hold that line of they're just too sticking out too much out of that.
They dip either to one side or to the other.
Yeah, so it's a very fine line to walk, but it's fun and it's exciting and always very rewarding. Like you can instantly feel when we're writing music. Sometimes we write music together and we just sit next to each other and we play guitar and ideas come, or sometimes we write stuff separately and we bring it together and try to work it out from there. But either way, it's just sometimes you really find this goosebumpy thing that you're like, wow, this is amazing. And when you feel that, that's just so rewarding. And we know that this is the Aegis sound that we're out to create.
We touched a little bit on the death of Kings of Old, and I want to ask you about that song specifically, but there's another song on this album that really stood out to me, and that was A Hollow Tomb. I love the intro that song has. I love the acoustic bridge. I love the cinematic melody. It almost feels like very Silence of the Lambs kind of feel to it. It has this dark, somber, melancholic vibe that goes into it. How did you guys put that track together? Because there's, in my opinion, that track has so many different layers. There's so many different pieces, but somehow you guys found that commonality between them, and in order to make the whole track work as one.
Interesting. I wish I could answer that specifically. A Hollow Tomb, how things come to be. What I do know is that the intro part was one of the last things that were added because I wanted something to open up this gloominess of the whole atmospheric thing. That's what I remember specifically. I think it was one of the last things before we sent the album out to. So, but other than that, I think it's just. I wish I could give you a very profound answer to this, but most songs are composed in the same kind of the same fashion and just something. But you feel instantly. You can't just throw random riffs together and here's a black metal song. It's very. You start out with something and then you just feel, where do we take this? How do we? How what is the right progression? Yeah.
It almost like it picks up a life of its own.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it does. Because I know if you're a rehearsing band, for example, and you have maybe 5 contributing members writing their own stuff, and maybe you throw things together and it doesn't feel coherent. But I feel since there are only the 2 of us, we can just we feel instantly, and we never just randomly throw things in there. We have a library of things that we haven't even used yet, but it's you have to pick the right ingredients, and you feel that, as you said, it's a life of its own. You start with one thing and you feel, this has to progress in this way or that way, and with that kind of is it orchestral? Is it acoustic? Is it what?
So sometimes you just go by what it feels like.
Yes.
You almost know immediately as the song is progressing. Okay, this song needs this right now in order to work, and you just add to it.
That's exactly.
Very organic. I guess that's the better word to use.
Yeah.
So let me switch things up a little bit. The Death of Kings of Old. I'm not going to ask you about how the song came together, the structure of the song, and any of that stuff. But I want to ask you about the vocals. Is there something you can tell me about the vocals on that track? Because to me, the vocals was one of the things that really intrigued me about that song. I felt that it was not a one size fits all. It had a little bit of a different approach considering some of the other tracks.
Yes, I have to take out the lyrics here to think what we were thinking at the time. And I agree with. I think that the vocal performances and the lyrics go very well hand in hand on this song. It has, to me, pretty powerful lyrics and message also, and goes very well with the song as a whole. And in terms of vocal performance, it's a little bit, it's interesting because we rarely record. We create one song, write one song, and then we do the vocals for that song, and then we move onwards to the next song we do. So it's not like we write everything and hey, now let's take a week and record the vocals. So I think a lot has to do with also Andreas who does the vocals. It's a lot without putting any words in mouth, but I think it's different. He is in a different mood, and if he's more relaxed, if he's angry at something, if the lyrics resonate with him at that certain point in time, and it comes out different every time, which is kind of interesting. And so maybe this was one of those times when the words and the mindset really went hand in hand. So
I mean, at the end of the day, perhaps the album is a result of the length of the time that took you guys to create the album, because when you have that much length of time, each song is going to pick up a little bit of who you guys are at that specific moment. So it almost like it becomes a snapshot of where you were in time when each song was created. And that perhaps is what contributes to the diversity of how the songs come across on this record.
Yeah, I think so. There is so many. The past 4 or 5 years has been a wild ride in this world, and you're constantly fed with so much weird shit going on. So you every other day you find yourself. I'm trying to shield myself, or I will just be too infuriated with all the stupidity happening. So yeah, but once you start diving into what's going on, it's just a lot of things coming up to the surface that just makes your blood boil, and you have to have an outlet for that. And writing lyrics for the songs is a pretty good way of doing that, and also writing black metal in general.
it allows some of that darkness that you have within you to come out.
Yeah, I guess
in a positive way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's not in a destructive way. It ignites the creativity of channeling some discontent with things.
On that note, I want to thank you very much for taking the time today to chat about this record and the band Aegis. Once again, the album Uncrown, out August 21st on Black Lodge Records. Go pick it up. Great album. This was an absolute pleasure to listen to. And congratulations on the work you guys did on this record.
Thank you so much. I hope people will enjoy it as much as I actually do still. I don't hate it. Sometimes when you finish a project, you don't want to touch it again, but I put this on pretty recently, and I just I'm happy. This is
it still holds up.
Up. I'll listen to this. So yeah.
It's a good sign.
I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much. Take care, man.
Thank you. Take care.